Welcome to today's new family orientation session. Before we begin, we have a few important housekeeping notes to cover.
La traducción al español para esta sesión es proporcionada por Wordly, una herramienta de traducción en tiempo real. Para acceder a este contenido en español, haga clic en el icono del globo en la barra de herramientas del lado derecho de la pantalla y seleccione Español en la lista de opciones de traducción.
Today's session is being recorded. Recordings will be available approximately 3 hours after the session ends. You can find session recordings in your session schedule or in the on-demand page of the Hub. To ask questions during this session, click on the Q&A button in the panel to the right of your screen. We'll answer as many questions as we can, either during the session or at the end. You can submit questions anonymously. Please don't share any personal information in questions, as questions will be visible to all guests. If you see a question in the Q&A panel that you want to see answered, upvote it to let our team know. Lastly, we ask that you please join us in upholding and promoting UC San Diego's principles of community, and in keeping our community free from any and all forms of discrimination and harassment. Now let's get started with today's new family orientation session.
Hi everyone, welcome to our presentation today. My name is Emma and I'm joined here today with my colleague Ben, and we are part of the Student Financial Solutions team, also known as SFS, and today we're going to go over some questions you might have regarding billing, payments, refunds, and some more other questions. Let's get started. So we will go over who is Student Financial Solutions. We're going to go over our billing and also talk about our refund options and also best practices for parents as well. And like I said, my name is Emma, and I have been working at SFS for over a year, and I wear a lot of different hats, and some of the things that I handle are collections, accounts receivable, and third-party billing, so that includes domestic, international, and military sponsorship. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Ben, who will also introduce himself.
Hi, my name's Ben. I work as mainly a student accounts advisor at Student Financial Solutions, and I basically help with all inquiries that pertain to your student account, as well as payments, refunds, etc. So I'm much more on the customer service side, and then I assist on the back end with some operational processes as well. And I'm excited to just give everyone an overview of what this office does and how we can help you out.
And so Student Financial Solutions, also known as SFS, which I'll be referring to as SFS going forward. And we provide a very essential client support for students and any type of inquiries related to your student's account. And we basically make sure that as a student, you have everything you need to succeed when it comes to your financial aspect. Whether it's questions about your loans, so we handle loan administrations and any all-campus-based loan programs. And that's basically students, if you have questions about your loan status, repayments, or your questions about your eligibilities, our cashiers team handle payments and payment processing, so whether that's cash or check payments made to university. We also handle campus cards, so we issue cards for our students, staff, and faculty members. And we're also here to answer all questions regarding to billing about your account or any payment assistance or payment plan options that we have. So for our billing questions, we're gonna go over a lot of the frequently asked questions that we have. The first one is, when are the students billed? So the students are billed on a monthly basis based on our academic calendar. So we have our tuition and registration fees, which are billed at the beginning of each term, and our housing and dining fees are based on the contract of the housing contract. So whether these are monthly or quarterly or yearly. And we also have additional fees that can incur throughout the year as the student uses those fees, whether it's parking permits, course material fees, or health services fees. And these will show up on the student's billing statements throughout the month. And I do want to bring up that each month has its own due date. And so the statements are issued at the beginning of the month. They're usually due at the end of the month. And next slide, please. The students can be billed for our basic, mandatory tuition and registration fees. And that will also depend whether the student is full-time or part-time status. That will also depend on the residency status of the student. So meaning if the student lives in the state of California or if they're from out of state. And fees are a flat rate. And so they are not prorated on the amount of unit that the students have. And for housing and dining fees, these are based on the contract of the housing contract of the students. And as I said before, any fees that incur throughout the year, whether it's parking fees or bookstore charges or course lab fees, those will get invoiced to the students. And we usually recommend the students, if they have questions about these particular fees, to reach out specifically to the department that is responsible for the fees, and they'll be able to give them more details on what those fees are for. Next slide. And this is our billing statement. I do want to mention that it's very important for the parents of the students to become authorized payers in the student's account. And that will allow them to see the bill for the students and to receive notices each month. And they'll be able to, and when the parents call us or reach out to us, we'll be able to give them more details about what the charge is for. So it's really important to reach out to your student and ask them to give you access as an authorized payer on your account, and we can give you more details on that as well. And where can students view their bill? So students can receive their bill via Track and Pay, which is our payment portal, and they'll be able to see all type of transaction details, whether it's current bills, past due bills, and total account balance. They can also see their monthly statements, whether current or historical, and they'll be able to see when their balance is due. And as I said before, if their parent has been given access as an authorized payer, they'll be able to see those information as well. Next slide. And this is just a screenshot of our Try and Pay. So you have, for the student, it's showing the summer sessions, and these are the fees that they'll have. And on the left side of the screen, there's different tabs where you can see the activity details, option to make payments, option to enroll in any payment plans, and to see any transaction details that you have in your account. Next slide. And right now I'm gonna go over some payment questions that some students might have throughout the year. So first is tuition and registration fees. Like I said before, the due dates can vary each month, and this is the website for the due dates that we have. And for housing and dining fees, the contract, it could be either monthly contract, or quarterly contract or yearly contract. It will depend on which contract that the student has. And other fees will also depend on when the charge occurred. So if it occurred during the month, then that will depend on when those charges happen throughout the month. Next slide. We offer multiple payment options. So we prefer online payments. So we have e-check payments available and credit cards and debit card. And we also accept Apple Pay and Google Pay. And we also have 5 to 9 saving plans available. And in addition to those, we accept payments via Flywire, Convera, or TransferMate. And these are our international options. And our cashier's office on the first floor, the ground floor of the Student Services Center, they accept cash payment and also mail payment. So whether it's personal check, cashier's check, or scholarships payment, those we will be able to accept those. And in Try and Pay, on our next screen, you'll be able to see where to make payment. So once you have access to Try and Pay, you can log in and choose your payment method and make payment there also. Our payment processing time, they vary. So online payments, they will apply to your account very quickly. But however, for in-person payments, if it received by 3 p.m., so these will be able to go into your account on the same day. And if it's after 3 p.m., then by the next business day, these should apply to your account. And mail payment takes a little longer, so it can take up to 1 to 2 weeks for payments to apply to your account. And for international payments, it can take even longer and could have a period of 7 to 10 days for your payments to apply. And mail payments should be sent to our Try and Pay office. And this is our address right here on the next slide. And please, when you're sending a payment, whether it's wire payment, check payment, make sure that it includes the student's name and their PID number, and that will really facilitate the payment application and make sure that we apply it promptly to their account. And for check payments, please make sure that they are made payable through UC Regents. Next slide. And right now I'm going to go over the fees. So depending on which payment option you choose, there are different fees associated. For e-check, we have a 50-cent flat fee. And for credit card, Apple Pay, debit card, and that's a 2.75%. And so if you're making a larger payment, that's why I recommend doing an online payment, e-check payment, instead of credit card payment, as if the amount is larger, 2.75%, that's a good chunk of fees. And for 5 to 9 saving plans, we have a $10 flat fee. And for international payments, that will depend on the sponsor, the vendor, or the country also. And these are just our fees as of July 25. Obviously, they can change at any time in the future. Next slide. So if payments are made after billing dates, students might receive a hold on their account, which can prevent them from registering in classes. They might get dropped from their courses. So it's really important to make sure that students pay promptly as they receive their billing statements. course, cancellation can also occur, and that can happen per quarter after the billing date. And however, we do not charge student late fees, but we do take actions once students have started to make late payments. And we do offer, on our next slide, we do offer payment plan options for students if they're not able to pay all of their fees right away. We have our trip payment plan, and that applies to tuition and registration fees. And each installment is due by its monthly billing date. And to enroll in TRIP, there is a $40 enrollment fee, but the benefit of that is there is no, it does not gain interest. And if you have any question about the TRIP payment plan, our team will be happy to help you. And this is an example in Try and Pay where you will be able to enroll. So depending on your balance and your monthly fee, you'll be able to go in and enroll in TRIP and start making monthly payments there. And right now, I will pass it up to my colleague, Ben, who will go over financial aid and the rest of the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Emma. So I'm going to be going over the role of the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office in conjunction with our office when it comes to your student account or your student's account. And the reason why this is important to understand is because we both handle similar processes. We both work with the financial side of the student account, but we each have different roles that are important to understand. And understanding these is basically going to allow you to get serviced easier. So let's go ahead and take a look at who manages student financial aid. So once a student completes their FAFSA application, it's up to the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office to determine their aid eligibility. So the office that actually determines how much aid that's going to get put on the student account is going to be the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. They're basically going to put together the entire student's aid package, and they're also in charge of disbursements as well. So they're going to determine the amount that the student receives, and they're also going to be the ones that actually put it on the account. Additionally, some students get adjustments to their financial aid made throughout the quarter or throughout the year, and so this office is in charge of those adjustments as well. So sometimes we get questions from students or parents where a student's aid is reduced for reasons that our office doesn't have access to know. And the reason why is because it's handled by the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. So if you ever have any questions about the amount of aid that you're going to be receiving, or about adjustments that have been made to the student account, you're definitely going to want to reach out to this office and they'll be able to help you out. So how is financial aid received? So their office is going to disperse financial aid once per term to the student try to pay account. And what that means really is once per quarter, typically at the very beginning of the quarter, right before the initial billing due date, the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office is going to assemble an aid package for the student and then put it on the student account. Sometimes because of aid processing times or late disbursements, there's going to be, it'll say that it's pending on the student account instead of actually applied as real money. Regardless, whether it's pending or actually applied, it's going to reduce from the balance that you're expected to pay. Once the student has been offered their awards, which they can view in the Financial Aid and Scholarships portal, that's going to be on the Trident link. So once they've been offered their awards, they're going to have to accept or decline them. And so this is really important for loans. So typically grants are automatically accepted by students. They don't need to take any action to accept a grant that they've been awarded. But especially for loans, if they want to accept a loan, you're going to have to go into your portal and either accept it or decline it. And this is also important to get familiar with the portal as well, because once you accept aid, sometimes there's going to be additional tasks for you to complete once you accept that aid. And so this could be anything from like uploading documentation to verifying your GPA, et cetera, et cetera. And once all of that's been taken care of, so after you've accepted or declined your aid, and after you've completed all the tasks that are needed of you, the disbursements for each quarter are going to follow the timeline right here. So for the fall 2025 quarter, the disbursement date for fall is going to be September 16th. And the refund portion of that looks like there's two dates right here, 22nd and the 24th. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head because these two dates are different, but the latter half of September is going to be when the refunds for aid are pushed out. For winter of 2026, the disbursement date that aid comes out onto the student account is December 27th, and it's going to be available for refund on January 5th. And then for spring 2026, aid is dispersed on March 21st and then refunded out to the student on March 30th. And just a quick note here too. So just because a student account receives aid does not necessarily make it eligible for a refund. So whenever I say that refunds are going to be sent out on this day, that's under the prerequisite that that student account had enough aid to pay off the entire account balance and then had an overpayment of aid. And so that's what those refund dates are alluding towards. And so just like Emma showed in the previous slides, this is an image of a billing statement. But what's important about this is that it's going to show how aid is going to disperse and look like on your billing statement. So right here, I'm not sure if you guys can see my mouse, but there's a section on there called previous account balance. So we can see in this billing statement, it's a charge for $11,181.07. And then under the current activity tab, there's line items which are a combined total of e-check payments and financial aid. So these payments add up to the exact amount of the charges. The way to interpret the billing statement is basically to find out how much you owe is you're going to want to combine or add the previous account balance, which is the previous month's billing statement total, with the current account balance, which is this month's, all activity that occurred this month. So all of these credit line items add up to exactly the amount in the previous account balance. So the previous account balance and current account balance basically cancel each other out. You're left with the total amount of zero. And the reason why you can't see the charges on this billing statement as well is because billing statements are not updated after they come out. So the previous billing statement had the charges for the registration listed on there, and then when aid comes out, it's going to list on the next billing statement because that initial billing statement is not going to be updated. And so what is our role in terms of financial aid? So we support, our main priorities and services that we offer is just support with student billing, payments, and refunds. But we work closely with the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office to understand how aid disbursements are applied to student balances. We work with their office heavily in terms of the refund process. So they disperse and determine the amount of aid you receive, but our office is in charge of getting any leftover money or overpayments on your account and sending it out to you. Additionally, we also process outside agency scholarships. So our office, if you have an outside agency, scholarship agency, that is sending a physical check to UCSD to pay off your bill, we would process that check and then send the information over to the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. Additionally, we help students and authorized payers understand billing, aid application, and refunds. And so here's the address. If you have an outside agency or third party that's going to be paying off or making payments to your account, this is the address you're going to want to send it to. Additionally, you're going to want to make the payments include your student's name as well as the PID number. More information, it's better to have more information on these checks than too little. Otherwise, you risk not having the payment applied and then having to cancel and reissue those checks. And then, yes, just make sure they're payable to you. The big two, though, are make sure they're payable to UC Regents and name and PID number. And I'm going to go into understanding overpayments and refunds, which I just touched upon briefly in the previous slides. So what is an overpayment and what is a credit balance? So when you log onto your Try to Pay, especially if you have a lot of financial aid, sometimes in the additional information screen, you're going to see a section and it'll say additional information, credit balance. And so what does that mean? It means that when a payment is made to your account that's more than the actual amount of charges or balance on your account, it means that it makes a credit balance. And so it's basically another term for an overpayment. An overpayment on an account is always going to result in a credit balance. And when you view it on your Try to Pay, it's going to be a negative balance. This is a common question that we get where students have negative balances on their account. For example, negative $500 would be the account balance. And they think that they have to pay that $500. Whenever there's a negative balance on your account, it's indicating that you have a credit balance, and that means that the university owes you money, not the other way around. Overpayments are typically the result of students receiving excess financial aid. Sometimes they also occur when physical check payments are made out to be more than the student account balance. But the most common reason why you'll get an overpayment on your account is because your aid package exceeds the amount of your total charges. When you have a credit balance, we basically have to wait for the financial aid office to approve the financial aid package for refund. And then once they do that, we can go ahead and push out those refunds. And let me see if this next slide touches. Yeah, so this is what it's going to look like on Try to Pay when you have a credit balance. As you can see, the actual balance on the top right corner is 0. That section is always going to be the section that indicates the amount you have to pay. But on the bottom section where it says additional information, it's a negative balance of about $2,400. And so that's going to be the amount that's going to be refunded to you. Additionally, too, this is pretty important. So I don't know if you can see on the left-hand side, this is the overview section that we're looking at. If you want to view specifically what is comprising of this credit balance, you can click on the activity detail section, and it's going to give you an itemized list of all current transactions that are showing as active on the student account. And so in this case, the way to sort of read this is you see the original amount of the charges and credits in those respective columns, and then the balance is going to be the actual amount of money that's contributing to the total account balance. So that balance column right there. And you can see that this $2,400 is a result of the direct Parent Plus loan. And how are refunds received? So when a student has a credit balance on their account, it's just good practice to request a refund from our office. Financial aid refunds are typically automatic, but to ensure that financial aid or any other sort of refund is being sent out to you in a timely manner, it never hurts to send a refund request to us. Additionally, this is important because if the refund is not from financial aid, if it's from a cash or check overpayment or from a housing overpayment, those are manual, and you would need to send a refund request form to our office in order to receive that refund. Otherwise, we push it out. We would push the cash and check refund out in 90 days automatically. The way you can find these refund request forms is via the services and support portal. And additionally, I believe we have direct links to them on our website, sfs.ucsd.edu. when a refund request is approved, we will issue the refund to two places, either your direct deposit account if you've listed it and enrolled in direct deposit, or your current mailing address. And the priority is direct deposit first, mailing address second. So by default, you're not enrolled in direct deposit. That's a good practice to do, is enroll in direct deposit as soon as you can. That way we can just send it straight to direct deposit, which is way faster and much more secure. But by default, if you are not enrolled in direct deposit, we'll be sending it to your mailing address. And then I think this last bullet point. Yeah, so if you're enrolled in direct deposit, it's just going to automatically get sent out to your direct deposit. And how long does it take for them to be received? If you're enrolled in direct deposit at the time of your refund, not after it's sent out, but at the time that the refund is sent out, it's going to take about 2 to 3 business days from the issue date of that refund. If you're not enrolled in direct deposit and the check is mailed out, it can take 1 to 2 business weeks from the issue date. Since we process different types of refunds, each weekday we have a schedule for different types of refunds that are sent out. We just ask that students submit the refund request form, wait for the approval, and then monitor your email for updates. And just to summarize all of this, so I know this was a long presentation and there was a lot of information. What are the actual actions that are best practices for parents to do, right? Obviously, we can always review the information, but here's what you want to do to set yourself up and your student for success. So here is a checklist for the fall quarter. The main priority, if you're a parent that wants to basically look at your student's bill and talk with their office about your student's bill and monitor everything regarding that bill, you're going to want to become authorized on the student account. And this is really easy. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes. You can just have your student look up UCSD payer authorization. I believe it's the first link on Google. There'll be a YouTube tutorial. All they have to do is go into their Trident Pay account, go into their profile section, and they can add authorized payers from there. It'll send you an email once they do it. You just accept that email, make an account, and then you're authorized, and you can talk with us regarding your student's account. If you're not authorized, we can only provide general information to you if you ever had a question or came to our office with an inquiry for your student. The second most priority, the second thing that you're going to want to do is waive UC SHIP if it's applicable. So UC SHIP is the campus-based health insurance, and this is going to be very important to waive if you already have qualifying health insurance. You can just look up UC SHIP waive or UCSD UC SHIP waiver, and it'll be the first link. It'll have all the instructions in the portal for you to submit that, and that way you can waive that health insurance fee every quarter. Additionally, you can enroll in direct deposit so that if you're expecting refunds, they'll just get sent out straight to your direct deposit. Again, this can be found on Google. You can just look at UCSD direct deposit and it'll take you to that link. You're going to want to complete any required financial aid tasks. So check your financial aid portal. This especially goes out to students if they're watching. Check your financial aid portal and make sure that all of your tasks are up to date. That way, the financial aid office isn't going to run into any delays when it comes to dispersing your aid. You're going to want to opt in for electronic 1098-Ts if you're expecting to file taxes. This is a pretty important tax form that we generate each year for students. It summarizes a lot of financial activity on the account, and you can basically get this 1098-T, give it to a tax specialist, and they'll be able to determine what to do with that in terms of filing your taxes. And then setting up a payment profile. So setting up a payment profile, first you would need to become authorized, right? So that's the main thing. And then setting up a payment profile just means when you make your first payments, you can enter in all of your payment information, and then it'll save it as a profile so you don't have to enter in your banking information each time you go to make a payment. When you make your first payment, once it asks you to enter in your information, it'll save it for the next time. So it's just a good practice to sort of to make sure you keep track of these. And then now we're going to move into the live Q&A.
So we have a question right now. When can we start for the parent fall checklist? I would say for most of these, you should be able to get started on them now. Becoming an authorized payer, you can do so on the student's end. The student should have access to their Triton Pay portal already. So if the student logs in the Triton Pay, they would go to their account management and then send you a payer invite so they can authorize you as a payer. At that point in time, the student can also enroll in direct deposit at this time, and they should also be able to waive UC SHIP, which is the health insurance fee that's charged on a quarterly basis if the student has qualified private health insurance. As well as the student on their end can check right now if they've completed all qualified financial aid tasks or relevant financial aid tasks. So there's already some things like that that can already be done as of this time. Let's see, let's pick another question. The first payment deadline is for the fall quarter, September 24th. That is whenever all of the students' tuition and other mandatory fees like registration fees, campus-based fees will be due. Students that are living on campus as well, that is the due date for them. So again, that due date is September 24th. As long as you become an authorized payer on the student's Triton Pay account prior to that, you would receive e-bill notifications or email notifications regarding when the billing due date is and when to pay before then. Another great question. Both tuition and housing fees can be paid with a payment plan. So the payment plan that we talked about earlier in this presentation with the TRIP payment plan, TRIP only applies to tuition and registration fees. So it only applies to those mandatory fees. For students that are living on campus, and so they have on-campus housing and dining fees, if you're paying for those fees and you would like to have a monthly installment option similar to TRIP, then the student would need to update their housing contract with the housing department to be a monthly contract. Their contract determines the frequency at which they're charged. So they can have a yearly housing and dining contract, a quarterly, or a monthly. If you want the fees to be due at the same time at the beginning of every quarter with tuition registration, it makes sense to have a quarterly housing and dining plan. Otherwise, if you wanted it to be monthly, if you're interested in enrolling in TRIP for the student to make monthly payments for everything, then ensure that the student's housing contract is set up to be monthly as well. So the invoice is the billing statement, and billing statements are generated on a monthly basis as long as there's any account activity on the student's Triton Pay. So for the fall quarter, the billing statement or the invoice will be made available September 3rd. And again, that due date for the fall quarter is September 24th. So the billing statement invoice will be available at that time. Generally speaking, because due dates don't fall on the same day every month and the statement dates aren't the same every month, it's a good rule of thumb that the billing statement is available at the beginning, so within the first week of the month, and then the due date is towards the latter end of the month.
Alrighty, I can hop on, Casper. We have a few questions regarding authorized payers. So you can have multiple authorized payers on your account. They don't necessarily have to be your parents. So if you have an aunt that's going to be paying your bill, you can go ahead and add them. I believe you can add up to 10 authorized payers. And for those asking about the tuition estimated cost of attendance, the website is down, but it should be back around 7 p.m. tonight.
We have a question, is waiving USHIP done once per year or does it need to be done for each quarter? The answer to that is it can be done at the beginning of the academic year. If you're eligible or if the student is eligible to have it waived, it'll be waived for the fall, winter, and spring quarter if it's done at the very beginning. If you aren't able to waive it during the fall deadline period, because there is an application deadline period for each quarter, and let's say you apply in the winter, it would be waived for the winter and spring quarter. So I would highly recommend just applying for the health fee waiver if your student receives private health insurance and they're qualified to have it waived before the fall quarter begins. So I'd say at latest, late August, early September is when you'd want to do this.
A question that we've gotten a couple of times is related to the 1098T and how to opt in to do it electronically. To do so, what you'll need to do is have your student log into their enrollment checklist and scroll down towards the bottom. There's an option there to opt into electronic 1098T. Your student just needs to fill that information out and then they'll be all set. Our team is also going to be sending out some communications in August where we will also provide the link there as well, just to remind you if you haven't done it yet by that point.
So we got another question. This one is asking, how can I know if my housing is going to be charged quarterly or monthly? So to know if it's going to be quarterly or monthly, that is based on your housing contract that you had set up and agreed to at the beginning. So if you're living on campus as a student, you should have already paid the housing deposit as well as agreed to and signed a contract. If you don't remember what you had agreed to, you're more than welcome to contact the housing department. So at UCSD, it would just be Housing, Dining, Hospitality, or HDH at UCSD. And they'll be able to help you, the student, out in determining what your contract is, the frequency established already. And then they can also help you with changing it if you wanted to change it from quarterly to monthly or from monthly to quarterly, etc. So yes, you can set up auto pay whenever you become an authorized payer. So again, the student sends you a payer invite on their Triton Pay portal. And once you become an authorized payer, you'll have your own login credentials. You go into the site. And whenever there's a balance on Triton Pay is whenever you'll be able to make a payment for it. Now, for auto pay, we currently have the option for enrolling in auto pay if you enroll in the payment plan trip for tuition and registration fees, or if the student is living on campus to have auto pay for their monthly housing and dining fees. Um, if you're wanting to enroll in auto pay for tuition registration, but you aren't wanting to enroll in the trip payment plan, unfortunately, that isn't an option at this time. So you'd want to, for tuition registration fees, if you want auto pay as an option, you would need to set it up with the trip payment plan. Or if the student is living on campus and receiving housing and dining fees, then auto pay can be set up for those fees.
Oh, Puchia, I think you're muted.
Oh, thank
There
you.
we go.
So yes, there were a couple of other housing questions, so I wanted to address those. The first one is there a fee to make housing and dining payments monthly? There is a one-time $30 administrative fee if you opt to pay your housing either quarterly or monthly. And then I believe there is another housing one that I saw towards the bottom. Oh, there we go. For on-campus housing, does housing and dining get charged together? Yes, they are charged as just one line item on your Triton bill statement. I think those are the only housing ones.
Well, thank you, Pachia. There's this question I'd like to try tackling real quick. Are the tuition fees flat for full-time students? If they enroll in more credits in the full-time load, is it the same cost? Also, are the summer course fees the same for out-of-state and in-state students? So multiple parts. First part is during the academic year. So that's the fall quarter, winter quarter, and spring quarter. Each quarter is 3 months. So the total duration of the academic year is 9 months. We're starting at September and ending in May, I believe. And during that duration of the academic year, if the student is enrolled in full time, that means that they're enrolled in 12 units or more. So at that point, they're charged at a flat rate. Doesn't matter if they're enrolled in 12 units, 16 units, 20 units. It's a lot to take for a quarter, which is just 3 months, 20 units, but it is the same tuition cost flat as it is to be enrolled in 12 units. The only difference in that flat rate cost for tuition is if the student is enrolled in 10 units or less, because that would qualify for part-time status. And for part-time status, as long as they're enrolled in 10 units or less and they apply for it and get approved of it, then they would be charged half the amount that a full-time student is for the tuition charge itself. The other registration fees, like the campus-based fees, would remain for the full amount, but the tuition cost in of itself would be half. So that's that question. The other one, summer courses, they're charged per unit, so it's different from the flat rate. And to my understanding, they are the same for in-state and out-of-state students. But during the academic year, your tuition is different if you're an in-state or an out-of-state student. So those considerations, among other things, could impact the amount that you're charged for tuition. We got this other question. There are some 529 plan providers that are excluded from Triton Pay. The reason being is that the payment vendor that we utilize, Transact, they aren't able to have that 529 plan provider offered. So if your 529 plan provider doesn't want to work with our payment vendor Transact, then that's likely why that they're excluded from Triton Pay as an option, an online option. Uh, electronic payments are still available if you speak with your 529 plan provider and you ask them if they could still pay. I would recommend checking if it's an option through Triton Pay first. And if it's not an option to pay through Triton Pay via 529 for your specific plan, then I would recommend just going forward with your specific plan provider as they can facilitate that payment from them to us. And additionally, the service fee for e-check is 50 cents. And the reason being is that is managed by, again, our payment vendor Transact. So that's not money that goes to us necessarily, but because of the online payment option and the quote unquote convenience fee, that's why that is assessed. All right, we will be wrapping up in a few minutes. So we want to try and answer as many questions as we can.
I posted one, Casper. We're getting a few questions regarding UShip. So based on the Student Health Services website, you can start submitting your waiver applications if you choose to waive insurance through the university, starting, let's see, May 2025, May 12, 2025 through September 14, 2025. They do have a late waiver time frame, but there will be an additional fee for submitting those late. That time frame is between September 15 through September 20th. I will go ahead and post the link to one of the questions so you guys can use that for reference.
Thank you, Christine. For this question, when do middle-class scholarship funds typically show, and will that show a negative balance? So the first part to that question is it typically shows later on in the quarter. And to my understanding, because again, we aren't the financial aid and scholarships office, for this specific question, I would highly recommend addressing it with them. But basically, the middle-class scholarship is determined not necessarily by the financial aid, if your student is eligible or not. It's determined by the California Student Aid Commission, I'm pretty sure. So it takes longer to process that specific type of scholarship. And so normally that award is dispersed later on in the quarter. Now, at the time the award is dispersed to the student's account on Triton Pay, if there's no open charges, then it will show as a negative balance, which is a credit balance that the student would then just be issued a refund for automatically. If there are open charges on the student's account, the scholarship would likely apply to those charges first, and depending on if there's any remaining amount from the scholarship after paying for that open balance at the time, then there could be a refund from it or might not be. And then for those that were asking questions about the health insurance fee, waiving it, anything like that, there will be a webinar tomorrow that is all about the health insurance. So I'd recommend going to the schedule and setting that up. Hopefully you can attend and register for that event. So is it better to pay with 529 through Triton Pay or from the 529 website? Does it make a difference? If you pay through Triton Pay, there's immediately a receipt on the student's account, which they can see, you as an authorized payer can see, and also us on our end, we can see that receipt for the payment. Even if it's still technically in transit electronically, we have receipt of it. The only downside is the $10 service fee paying online through Try and Pay with a 529. So that would be the big difference, is while we can immediately see the payment reflected on the student's account, there is the $10 service fee. So if your 529 plan provider doesn't charge a service fee, paying directly through them to UCSD, and you're paying in advance before the payment deadline, and you aren't concerned about that, I would recommend going that route. Let's see. I'll answer one more question if I see one. So regarding direct deposit, because this is one refund option for students, it has to be the student's account. It has to be under their name. It can't be your direct deposit account or anything like that. Our office, we issue refunds solely to students, with the exception of specific circumstances being, for example, if a parent takes out a direct parent plus loan, and they indicate in that application that they would like to receive the refund. Otherwise, all other credit balances available on the student's account, those refunds go directly to them. So ensure that the direct deposit account on file is under the student's name. All right. I believe that's all the time that we have. I'm going to head and remove myself. So hope I could answer some questions for you all.
All right, thank you so much, Casper, and to all of our other staff members for pitching in and answering those questions. So this will be the end of our presentation. Here are some various resources that you can just take a screenshot of. That way you can reach out to us if you have any other questions regarding student billing or this webinar later. So the main ways we take requests or questions is through tickets, which is basically, it'll update you through your email, but you can submit a ticket through that link right there. It takes you to the Student Services and Support portal. We also have a phone number that you can call, and this phone number is in service Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Additionally, if you want any in-person clarification, you can visit us at the Trident Pay office, which is located in the Student Services Center on the first floor, right next to Price Center. Below is our website, as well as knowledge base articles, or KBAs for short, where you can read articles regarding information on student accounts. And then additionally, if you want to, you can follow us on Instagram at ECSD-SFS. We're gonna try to bring some more life back into Instagram and make a lot more educational posts for y'all. But anyways, thank you very much for attending this webinar, and thank you to all of our staff for presenting, and welcome to UCSD.